Good morning and welcome to a very bright and sunny Carlisle. I'm at the railway station and I'm waiting for the train to take me down to London, where I'm going to be spending the next few days. So hopefully we'll get there at some point later today. The train is already delayed, hasn't even arrived in Carlisle yet, so I have no idea what time we'll get into London, but hopefully at some point later today. So join me as we explore London.
Luggage and belongings with you, and please mind the step down to the platform.
So this is the Highbury Centre, which is where we're spending the next 5 nights, on the edge of Highbury and Islington. So welcome to Chinatown. So just come around the corner from Chinatown now into Leicester Square. So this is sort of the heart of the West End. Theatre districts around here, cinemas, and it's very busy. When they do big movie releases, they often do the premieres here in Leicester Square. As you can see, the place is heaving. Don't come to London if you don't like crowds.
If you love me, got to know for sure. 'Cause it takes something more than
So here we have a statue to Captain James Cook, and I was in Staves just the other week, which was where Captain James Cook used to live. So do check out that video if you're interested. So here we have Trafalgar Square and Nelson's Column. So we're walking down Whitehall from Trafalgar Square, and Whitehall is really the heart of government, leading us to the Houses of Parliament. And in a short while we should come to Downing Street. Beautiful day. So here we have the entrance to Downing Street. You can just make out number 10, the building down in the distance. Anyway, very heavily guarded, as you would expect. I think you used to once be able to walk down Downing Street, but that was a long time ago. So this is the Cenotaph on Whitehall, just outside the gates of Downing Street. and it's here that the nation remembers its war dead, and on Remembrance Day Prime Ministers past and present gather along with members of the armed forces and members of the royal family to lead the nation in the act of remembrance for the war dead. So it's on that building behind the Cenotaph that members of the royal family, like the Queen, the Duchess of Cambridge and so forth, will stand on Remembrance Day, whilst senior royals, or the other senior royals, the King, will participate in the remembrance commemorations. Some form of protest taking place. I think it's over Turkey and the erosion of democratic freedoms. So one of the things that is associated with the UK are our red telephone boxes. They've got a few along here, along Whitehall, but these telephone boxes aren't actually in use anymore because they're no longer needed. People have mobile phones, but they're still here, and as you can see, very popular place for people to have their photos taken. Used to see them all over the country, but sadly no longer needed. But it's still nice to see some of the boxes out here. Again, people having their photos taken. So here we have probably the most famous landmark, not just in London but in the UK and actually globally. Lots of people call it Big Ben, but Big Ben is actually the bell in the tower. Its proper name is the Elizabeth Tower, and beside it we have the Houses of Parliament. Fantastic view of the River Thames and the London Eye. So this is, I think, Parliament Square, but around Parliament Square you have these statues commemorating famous political leaders, pioneers, including probably one of the most famous of all, Winston Churchill. So a fantastic view of the Palace of Westminster, and we're actually booked, I think on Monday, to have a tour of Westminster, which should be really interesting. I don't know if you're allowed to film inside or not, but I'm looking forward to that. Never done that before. And the tour is actually free, because if you get in touch with your local MP, if you live in the UK, they can book you onto a free tour of Parliament. So that's what we've done. So got lots of security barriers around Parliament to protect the building from any potential terrorist attack. One of the oldest parliaments in the world, I think. There's a statue there of Emily Pankhurst, famous suffragette, fought for the right for women to secure the vote. So next to the Houses of Parliament we have Westminster Abbey, which is where the coronation of kings and queens of this country have taken place over many, many centuries, including most recently the coronation of King Charles III. So we're crossing the Thames now on the Lambeth Bridge, heading over to Lambeth Palace, which is the home of the Archbishop of Canterbury. And it's just interesting to see how much development has taken place along the river over the last 10, 15, 20 years. Lots of high-rise buildings. And I think right in the far distance you can just make out the US Embassy. And sadly, people do take their lives on these bridges, jumping into the river. Look at this old telephone box covered with stickers. And just here we have Lambeth Palace. Which I would love to check out, but I don't know if visitors are allowed. You really couldn't ask for a more beautiful evening here in London. Absolutely stunning. On the south bank of the River Thames, opposite the Houses of Parliament, we have the National COVID Memorial Wall, which commemorates all the people who died during the COVID pandemic, which was 5 years ago. And on the hearts, people have written the names of those who died in the pandemic. Thousands and thousands of hearts, stretching as far as the eye can see. This section of the wall is in memory of the children, young people who died as a result of the COVID pandemic. We tend not to think so much of the child victims of COVID, but there were, very sadly. So this is the Southbank, a nice place to go for a little stroll, get a lot of performers and artists along the Southbank, so definitely worth checking out. So this building on the right is the Oxo Tower, and you can just see the windows spell out the word Oxo. And I remember many years ago doing a boat tour that they said that advertising along the Thames was forbidden, but the Oxo company got round it by building the name into the window. Anyway, beautiful evening, beautiful sunset. How cool is this? A beach in the centre of London. Although I personally wouldn't want to swim in the Thames. So that's Blackfriars Road Bridge, and we're underneath Blackfriar Railway Bridge, and you can see the supports of the old, what I presume was railway bridge, before they built the new one. So here we have the Tate Modern Art Gallery, which is again well worth visiting. And if you're looking for a free attraction to do in London, although many museums are free, this art gallery is free, and a really interesting one to go into, and also has a good viewing platform of the city overlooking the Thames and across to St Paul's Cathedral. This is the Millennium Footbridge. the most recent bridge to be built over the Thames, and when they built it they had terrible problems because it was wobbling and people were getting sick crossing it. So it took the engineers a long time to fix that problem, but it's a nice bridge that links St Paul's Cathedral to the Southbank and the Tate Modern. So I've actually visited this house with the yellow door. I think it was the house with the yellow door, because I had a friend from New Zealand who was spending some time in London and he was staying in that house, so I had the privilege of visiting him in this house, which I think is the home of the Dean of Suffolk Cathedral. And it's an amazing location to live if you're visiting London. Couldn't ask for a more central location. Here we have the Globe Theatre, which is a reconstruction of the original Globe Theatre, which is where William Shakespeare performed many of his plays here in London. Very trendy side of the river, all these bars. Very busy Saturday night. So these are the old warehouses on the South Bank, converted now into houses and restaurants and flats. So this is all that remains of Winchester Palace, which was one of the largest and most important buildings in medieval London, the home of the Bishops of Winchester. So just in front of me is London Bridge. From the children's nursery rhyme, London Bridge is falling down. The original medieval bridge had shops and businesses all across the bridge. And famously, an American wanted to buy Tower Bridge and move Tower Bridge to America, but they got confused between London Bridge and Tower Bridge, and they purchased the London Bridge that used to be on this site, which is now in America, rather than Tower Bridge, which was the one they actually wanted to purchase. So this is a replica of the Golden Hind. The original Golden Hind was the first ship to circumnavigate the world, and it was captained by Sir Francis Drake, and he left Plymouth in 1577 on that mammoth journey. The original Golden Hind sadly is no more. It rotted away in the 1600s, but at least you get a good idea of what it looks like with that replica. And here we have Southwark Cathedral with the Shard behind it, the tallest building in London. The architecture around here is just amazing. Everywhere you go, every corner you turn, you see something new. I must admit, London really is a very beautiful, fascinating city. This is an interesting sculpture. Just look at this view of the City of London. Absolutely amazing. This is why I love walking along the river in London. Whether you walk in the day or at night, there's just so much to see. It really is amazing. Good view there of HMS Belfast, which served during the Second World War. It's now moored here as a permanent museum exhibit space. So there we have a good view of Tower Bridge, and Canary Wharf is just lit up by the evening light. Absolutely beautiful. So if you look over to the Tower of London, you can just make out Traitors' Gate, which is where they would take traitors, those who were condemned to die, into the tower. If you went through that Traitors' Gate, you were not going to come out of the tower alive. It's a good view there of Tower Bridge, the Tower of London, and the City of London, looking stunning in this evening light. So Tower Bridge is designed to lift up, so when ships need to travel upriver, they can pass through under the bridge. So good view down into the moat of the Tower of London, and they've recently reseeded it, so it's actually now a wildflower meadow. So in another month or two's time, I suspect it'll look really beautiful. The Tower of London is, of course, a very important place in the life of this nation. The crown jewels are kept in the tower, and lots of key moments of British history have played out in the Tower of London, and it is supposedly one of the most haunted places in London, if you believe that sort of thing. So that's looking across the Thames to the Tate Modern building and the Millennium Bridge just on the right, and on the left the Globe Theatre. So we're walking now towards St Paul's Cathedral, which is Sir Christopher Wren's masterpiece. Replaced the original, or the older cathedral that was destroyed in the Great Fire of London. And miraculously survived the Blitz. So just explaining to Henrik that Beata, his mum, my wife, she came to England, and I knew she was staying somewhere near St Paul's Cathedral, but I had no idea where. So on the off chance of trying to find her in London, I came to London, booked myself into a hotel, and I was searching all the places to stay near St Paul's Cathedral, asking if they knew of this young Polish woman, which they didn't. And as I was asking one hostel very close to St Paul's about Beata, I turned round to leave, and there she walked in. And yeah, anyway, we've got a monument here to the firefighters and the Blitz. Now, I thought that was a really romantic story of me coming to London in search of the one I loved, who would eventually become my wife, and my son's response is, "Oh, that's a bit stalkerish." I thought it was a really romantic gesture, Henrik. Henrik doesn't like being on the camera, so you won't see much of him